Commander Maya Russo ducked behind a twisted chunk of metal as plasma fire sizzled overhead, leaving molten streaks across the asteroid mining station's bulkhead. The Vex Raiders had picked the wrong day to mess with Helios 7, and an even worse day to mess with her squad. Rodriguez, flank left. Kim, keep that suppressing fire coming. Maya's voice cut through the chaos as she checked her weapon's charge. 80%. More than enough to finish this dance. The Vex were your typical hostile alien raiders, all tentacles, attitude, and an unfortunate tendency to leak fluorescent green goo when shot. They'd shown up expecting easy pickings from a mining operation, but apparently their intelligence reports had missed the small detail about a full Marine squad conducting training exercises in the area. Commander, we've got 3 bogies trying to reach the reactor level, Sergeant Kim called out, her rifle spitting controlled bursts of coherent energy. Not on my watch, Maya muttered, halting over her cover with the kind of reckless confidence that made her superiors alternate between promoting her and trying to transfer her to desk jobs. She rounded the corner just as the lead Vex turned its bug-like head toward her. The alien's mandibles clicked something that probably translated to surprise, or maybe an obscenity. Maya didn't speak Vex, but she was fluent in the universal language of tactical superiority. 3 quick shots. 3 very dead raiders, 3 new puddles of that distinctive green goo that would take the cleaning crew forever to scrub out. That's what I call efficient, she said, stepping carefully around the mess. Her communicator chose that exact moment to screech with an incoming priority transmission. The quantum encryption signature made her stomach drop Galactic Council frequency. "This is Commander Russo," she answered, still keeping one eye on the corridor. "Commander Russo, this is Ambassador Thorne Kelly. I need you to drop everything and get to Harmony Prime immediately." Maya blinked. "Define immediately. Because I'm currently in the middle of explaining to some Vex Raiders why mining stations are off limits. The Galactic Council has called an emergency summit. They're questioning humanity's membership status. You're being summoned as Earth's military representative." "I'm being what now?" Maya dodged another burst of plasma fire from a Vex who'd apparently been playing dead. She returned the favor with interest. "The summit starts in 3 hours. There's a fast courier ship waiting at the station's docking bay." Maya looked down at herself. Her armor was splattered with alien goo, scorch marks, and what she was pretty sure was her own blood from a grazing hit she'd barely noticed. Her hair was plastered to her head with sweat, and she smelled like a combination of ozone, cordite, and victory. "Kelly, I hate to break it to you, but I'm not exactly dressed for a diplomatic function right now. There's formal wear waiting on the courier ship. Please, Commander, this is critical. They're threatening to revoke our membership if we can't prove we're civilized enough for galactic society." Maya snorted, putting another Vex Raider out of everyone's misery. "Civilized. Right. Because nothing says civilized like bureaucrats questioning the people who keep their space lanes clear of pirates. Just get here, Maya. Please." The transmission cut out just as Rodriguez's voice crackled through her comm. "All clear, Commander. Station secure. Want us to start cleanup?" Maya looked around at the aftermath of what had been, by her standards, a pretty routine Tuesday. The miners were already coming out of their shelters, the station was intact, and the only casualties were on the wrong side of the engagement. "Negative, Sergeant. You're in command. I've apparently got a diplomatic crisis to attend to." Rodriguez laughed. "You? At a diplomatic function? This I've got to hear about later." "Trust me, Sergeant, you will." Harmony Prime was the kind of space station that screamed we have more money than sense. Crystal spires twisted through zero-gravity chambers, and everything that could be gilded was. Maya's boots clicked against marble floors that probably cost more than her annual salary as she followed the increasingly frantic Ambassador Kelly through corridors filled with alien dignitaries. "Maya, please tell me you at least considered changing into the formal dress I sent," Kelly whispered, his face growing redder by the minute. Maya looked down at her battle armor, still decorated with dried Vex goo and fresh scorch marks. "I considered it." "And?" Liberation. I decided this sends a better message about who humanity actually is. A group of Altarians, tall, bird-like creatures with an unfortunate tendency toward pomposity, turned to stare as they passed. Their feathers ruffled in what Maya had learned was the alien equivalent of clutching pearls. "Commander," one of them warbled in perfect standard, "is it customary for human military personnel to attend diplomatic functions in battle dress?" Maya stopped walking and turned to face the creature with a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. "Only when we're coming straight from keeping the galaxy safe for diplomatic functions." The Altarian's head tilted in confusion, which was probably better than the alternative. "Maya," Kelly hissed under his breath. "What? It's true." She resumed walking, leaving a small crowd of ruffled aliens in her wake. The council chamber was even more ridiculous than the corridors. A massive circular room with tiered seating that could house representatives from hundreds of species. Most of the seats were filled with creatures that looked like they'd never seen a day of actual work in their lives. Maya spotted the usual suspects, the crystalline Zephyrite humming softly in their resonance chambers, their faceted bodies catching the light in patterns that probably meant something diplomatic. The slug-like Mullins had taken up their customary positions near the humidity controls, leaving glistening trails wherever they moved. And scattered throughout were dozens of species she recognized from diplomatic briefings she'd mostly slept through. "Commander Russo," a melodious voice called out. Maya turned to see Counselor Vex'tar, one of the few alien diplomats she actually respected. The Andorian's blue-tinged skin and pointed ears gave her an almost elfin appearance, if elves could negotiate trade agreements that prevented three-system wars. "Counselor," Maya nodded. "Nice to see a friendly face." "You've caused quite a stir," Vex'tar said, her tone carefully neutral but her eyes twinkling with what might have been amusement. "I live to serve." The formal dress code was specifically mentioned in the invitation. Maya gestured to her armor. "This is formal. It's my dress uniform. It's covered in alien blood. That's how you know it's been formally tested in combat conditions." Vex'tar's mouth twitched in what was definitely a suppressed smile. "You're going to give Ambassador Kelly a stroke. The day is young." A resonant chime filled the chamber, and the various aliens began settling into their seats. Maya looked around, spotted an empty section reserved for the human delegation, and made her way over. The seating was designed for the average galactic species, which meant it was about 2 sizes too small for a human in full combat armor. She tried sitting down normally. The chair creaked ominously. She tried perching on the edge. Her armor's power pack caught on the armrest. Finally, she gave up, grabbed a chair from the next section over, and plopped down with a satisfied grunt. The sound echoed through the suddenly quiet chamber. "Anyone know where a girl can get some snacks around here?" she called out cheerfully. "I've been fighting space pirates all morning, and I'm starving." The silence that followed was the kind of profound quiet that suggested several hundred alien dignitaries were reconsidering their life choices. Ambassador Kelly buried his face in his hands. Maya leaned back in her appropriated chair and grinned. This was going to be fun. Council Leader Vex'tar rose from his position at the center of the chamber, his 6 arms spreading wide in what Maya assumed was meant to be an impressive gesture. The irony of his name wasn't lost on her, considering she'd spent the morning converting his species into decorative puddles. "Honored delegates," Vex'tar began, his voice carrying the kind of pompous authority that made Maya's trigger finger twitch. "We gather today to address a grave concern regarding the human species and their suitability for continued membership in our Galactic Council." "Oh, this should be good," Maya muttered, loud enough for several nearby delegates to hear. Vex'tar's compound eyes focused on her with obvious distaste. "The evidence speaks for itself. Humans are inherently violent, aggressive, and unsuited for civilized galactic society." A holographic display materialized above the chamber's center, showing what was clearly meant to be damning footage of human military actions. Maya recognized most of the scenes: the defense of Kepler Station against Raider coalition forces, the evacuation of civilian populations from 3 different war zones. But The protection of a Zephyrite colony ship from pirates. Behold, Vex'tar declared dramatically, the savage nature of humanity on full display. Maya raised her hand. Question. This is not the time for. In that first clip, the one where we're supposedly demonstrating our savage nature by blowing up that Raider Coalition dreadnought, were those the same raiders who just finished glassing a civilian colony on Proxima 2e? Vex'tar's mandibles clicked irritably. The methods employed were unnecessarily destructive. And what was the alternative? Strongly worded diplomatic protest while they murdered another few thousand innocents. The proper channels should have been. The proper channels, Maya interrupted, were busy drafting a resolution condemning the violence while the raiders were loading civilian prisoners into slave ships. A murmur went through the chamber. Maya noticed several delegates shifting uncomfortably. And that second clip, she continued, warming up now, where we're evacuating that Mullen colony under fire. Were we supposed to file proper paperwork first? Maybe send them a formal invitation to please stop shooting at refugee transports? Councillor Vel'Shay was definitely trying not to smile now. The human propensity for violence, Vex'tar began. The human propensity, Maya cut him off, standing up so her armored form dominated the local area, is for getting things done while everyone else is still debating the proper font for the meeting minutes. The chamber erupted in multilingual chatter. Maya could make out at least 3 different species arguing among themselves. Furthermore, Vex'tar said, raising his voice, humans consistently disregard proper diplomatic protocol, as evidenced by the current state of their representatives' attire. Maya looked down at her battle-scarred armor, then back at the assembled delegates. You're absolutely right. This armor has seen action on 17 different worlds, protecting the lives of civilians from 12 different species, including several represented in this very chamber. It's stained with the blood of pirates, raiders, enslavers who thought they could prey on peaceful colonies while their protectors sat in meetings debating the proper response. She gestured broadly at the pristine chamber around them. Meanwhile, this place hasn't seen a day of honest work in its entire existence. So please tell me more about proper protocol, while I'm wearing the evidence of actually keeping the galaxy safe for democracy. The silence that followed was different from before. This wasn't shock, this was the sound of several hundred political creatures realizing they might have picked the wrong fight. Vex'tar's compound eyes glittered with what might have been malice. Very well. If humanity insists they are suited for civilized society, then let them prove it. We propose a series of challenges designed to test their worthiness according to proper galactic standards. Maya's grin was sharp enough to cut metal. What kind of challenges? Diplomatic negotiation, cultural appreciation, and strategic planning. All conducted according to established civilized protocols. Sounds reasonable, Maya said, and several delegates actually relaxed. I accept, with one small condition. Vex'tar's mandibles spread in what was probably meant to be a victorious smile. Name it. Practical applications. No point in testing theoretical knowledge when the galaxy runs on real problems with real consequences. What do you mean by practical applications? Maya's smile widened. Oh, you'll see. The first challenge was diplomatic negotiation, and Maya couldn't have asked for a better setup. Vex'tar had arranged for a mock negotiation between 2 council members over a hypothetical trade dispute. Maya listened to the parameters for about 30 seconds before raising her hand. This is fascinating and all, but I've got a better idea. There are 2 Cronin merchants in the station's marketplace who've been screaming at each other for the past week over docking fees. How about we solve an actual problem instead of playing pretend? The delegates exchanged glances. That would be highly irregular, one of the Altarians protested. It would be useful, Maya countered. What's more diplomatic, resolving a real conflict or staging a performance? 20 minutes later, the entire council was crammed into Harmony Prime's commercial district, watching Maya mediate between 2 very large, very angry reptilian traders who were apparently ready to settle their differences with what their species considered traditional combat. Gentlemen, Maya said, stepping between them with the casual confidence of someone who'd faced down much worse, Let me see if I understand the problem. Keth Val here thinks the docking fees are highway robbery, and Norjack thinks Keth Val is trying to cheat the system. Does that about sum it up? Both Cronins nodded. Their neck frills still flared in aggression. Right. Keth Val, you've been docking here for what, 5 years? Always paid on time? Always, the first Cronin rumbled. And Norjack, you've been harbor master for how long? 15 years. Never had problems until fee increase. Maya turned to the assembled council members, who were watching with the kind of fascination usually reserved for exotic wildlife. See, this isn't about docking fees. This is about communication. Norjack, did you explain to your regular customers why the fees went up? The harbor master's frills drooped slightly. Soon they would understand. Station improvements cost money. And Keth Val, did you ask why the fees increased before assuming you were being robbed? Didn't think to ask, the merchant admitted. Right. So here's what we're going to do. Norjack, you're going to give Keth Val a tour of the station improvements his fees are paying for. Keth Val, you're going to apologize for calling Norjack's mother a diseased swamp leech. She started it. I don't care who started it. I'm finishing it. Both Cronins looked suitably chastened. Maya turned back to the council with a satisfied expression. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and assorted non-binary entities, is how you resolve an actual diplomatic crisis. Any questions? The Cultural Appreciation Challenge was next, and Maya had even more fun with that one. Instead of a formal presentation about human culture, she announced, I'm organizing a cultural exchange. Everyone brings something from their home world and will share stories, food, and traditions. You know, like actual cultural appreciation instead of academic lectures. Within an hour, the council chamber had been transformed into something resembling a galaxy-wide potluck. Maya had somehow procured genuine Earth pizza from the station's food synthesizers, while various alien delegates contributed everything from zephyrite harmony crystals to mullein fermented fungi. The key to understanding human culture, Maya explained while helping an elderly Altarian navigate a slice of pepperoni pizza, is that we believe in practical solutions. We don't just study problems, we fix them. This sauce is quite pleasant, the Altarian admitted. What do you call it? Tomato sauce. And that's oregano you're tasting. We've been growing both on colony worlds for over a century now. Meanwhile, a group of Zephyrites was attempting to teach Ambassador Kelly their resonance harmonics, with limited success but considerable enthusiasm. This is highly irregular, one of the more conservative council members complained. This is working, Maya countered, gesturing to the increasingly relaxed atmosphere. When's the last time you saw a Cronin and a Mullen sharing a meal voluntarily? As if on cue, one of the Cronin traders from earlier was enthusiastically explaining some aspect of reptilian cuisine to a fascinated slug-like delegate. The strategic planning challenge never quite happened the way Vex'tar intended, because that's when the pirates showed up. Attention, Harmony Prime, a harsh voice crackled through the station's communication system. This is Captain Razik of the Free Star Consortium. You have exactly 10 minutes to transfer all credits from your central banking systems, or we start shooting expensive things. Maya was on her feet before the transmission ended, her hand automatically checking her weapon's charge. Around her, the various alien delegates were displaying every possible reaction to mortal peril, from panic to paralysis to dignified confusion. Well, she said cheerfully, looks like we get to test strategic planning under actual strategic conditions. Anyone object to a practical application of crisis management? The sound of weapons fire in the distance suggested they were past the point of objections anyway. The beautiful thing about pirates, Maya reflected as she coordinated Harmony Prime's defenses from what had been a diplomatic banquet hall, is that they never expect their targets to fight back with any competence. Velshay, I need you to get on the station's communication system and coordinate evacuations of non-essential personnel from sectors 7 through 12. Maya called out while reviewing the tactical display she'd somehow convinced the station's computer to project in the middle of what had been the cultural exchange. I'm a trade negotiator, not a military commander, the Andorian protested. You're someone who can give clear instructions under pressure, which makes you military command material in my book. Besides, you know this station better than I do. Around them, the various alien delegates were discovering that a crisis has a way of clarifying priorities. The Cronin merchants had volunteered to help with physical security, their natural strength making them ideal for moving barricades. The Zephyrites were using their harmonic abilities to jam pirate communications, while the Mullins had proven surprisingly effective at sealing off compromised sections of the station with their natural secretions. This is chaos, Ambassador Kelly complained, though he was efficiently sorting through passenger manifests to identify civilians who needed priority evacuation. This is crisis management, Maya corrected, toggling between security feeds to track the pirates' progress. And it's going better than most formal war college simulations I've seen. How can you possibly know that? Because we're not dead yet, and the pirates aren't winning. A new voice crackled through the communications system station security reporting that the pirates had breached the main docking bay and were advancing toward the central hub. Right, Maya said, checking her weapon one more time. It's time for the practical application portion of strategic planning. Where are you going? Kelly demanded. To explain to Captain Razek why attacking a diplomatic station during a council session was a really bad idea. You can't just watch me. Maya was halfway to the door when Counselor Velshay called out, Commander, you'll need backup. I appreciate the offer, but not me, Velshay said with a slight smile. Them. Maya turned to see a collection of alien delegates rising from their positions around the impromptu command center. The Cronin merchants. 3 Altarians who'd apparently decided that dignity was less important than survival. Even one of the Mullins was oozing forward with what might have been determination. You can't be serious, Maya said. You said practical applications. Vex'tar's voice came from behind her. Maya turned in surprise to see the council leader himself approaching, carrying what looked like a ceremonial weapon that had clearly seen some actual use. This is as practical as it gets. I thought you were questioning humanity's fitness for civilized society. I'm beginning to think, Vex'tar said carefully, that I may have been using the wrong definition of civilized. The fight through Harmony Prime's corridors was unlike anything Maya had experienced in her military career. Instead of a coordinated unit of trained soldiers, she found herself leading what could only be described as an extremely motivated mob of alien diplomats who decided that piracy was personally offensive to their sensibilities. The pirates, for their part, were completely unprepared for resistance from what should have been a collection of soft civilian targets. They especially weren't prepared for a Mullin who could secrete acidic compounds on command, or Altarians who could fly in zero gravity while providing covering fire. This is insane. One of the pirates shouted as his boarding party found themselves pinned down in a corridor by what appeared to be a geriatric Zephyrite humming at a frequency that made their pet weapons malfunction. This is effective, Maya called back, flanking their position with 2 Cronin merchants, who were treating the whole affair as an entertaining break from commerce. By the time they reached the docking bay, Captain Razek was beginning to understand that he'd made a serious miscalculation. Maya found him trying to coordinate a retreat while his crew discovered that their escape routes were being systematically sealed off by station security working in coordination. With a trade negotiator who'd apparently studied military logistics as a hobby. Captain Razek, Maya called out conversationally, stepping into the docking bay with her improvised alien army behind her. I'm Commander Maya Russo, and I believe you've been causing some trouble for my friends here. The pirate captain turned to face her, his scarred face displaying the kind of desperate bravado that suggested he was beginning to realize how badly his day was going. 1 human soldier and a bunch of diplomats? You've got to be kidding. Oh, I never kid about work, Maya replied. These diplomats just spent the afternoon learning about practical problem solving. Care to be our final exam? The surrender came faster than Maya had expected. But then again, most pirates were primarily motivated by profit. And there's nothing profitable about fighting an enemy that clearly enjoys the work more than you do. An hour later, Maya was back in the council chamber, sitting in her appropriated chair with her feet up on the conference table. The various alien delegates were settling back into their positions, though the atmosphere was considerably different from the morning's formal proceedings. So Maya said cheerfully, "Where were we? Something about humanity being too uncivilized for galactic society?" Council Leader Vex'tar, who was sporting a new scorch mark on his ceremonial robes and what might have been genuine respect in his compound eyes, cleared his throat carefully. "Perhaps we were hasty in our initial assessment." "Oh, I don't know about that," Maya said, examining a small tear in her armor where a pirate's energy bolt had come closer than she'd like. "You were absolutely right about humans being violent and aggressive. We just happen to direct those qualities toward problems that need solving rather than people who need impressing. The Council recognizes that humanity has demonstrated considerable value as a member species," another delegate offered diplomatically. "That's very kind of you," Maya said. "But before we get all warm and fuzzy, I've got some conditions for continued membership." The chamber fell silent. Apparently, the idea that humanity might have demands hadn't occurred to anyone. "First, this whole formal protocol thing needs some serious revision. I'm not saying we should throw out all diplomatic courtesy, but when there's a crisis, we respond to the crisis. Paperwork comes after people are safe." Murmurs of agreement came from several quarters, particularly from species that had been on the receiving end of human protection in recent years. "Second, mandatory practical training for all council members. You want to make decisions about galactic security? Great. Spend a month working with the people who actually provide that security." Ambassador Kelly looked like he was having trouble deciding whether to applaud or hide under the table. "Third, better snacks at these meetings. I don't care how many light years I have to travel for a diplomatic summit. I'm not doing it on an empty stomach." That one actually got some laughter. "And finally," Maya continued, her tone becoming more serious, "we stop pretending that civilization is about avoiding conflict. Real civilization is about handling conflict effectively, protecting those who can't protect themselves, and making sure the galaxy remains a place where people can live their lives without worrying about pirates, raiders, or anyone else who thinks might makes right." Council Leader Vex'tar rose slowly from his position. "The Council will need to deliberate on these conditions." "Take your time," Maya said, settling back in her chair. "But while you're deliberating, remember that there are about a dozen human patrol squadrons keeping the space lanes clear, 3 human garrison forces protecting civilian colonies, and 1 very tired human commander who'd like to get back to her actual job sometime before the next galactic crisis hits. And if the Council were to reject these conditions?" one of the more conservative delegates asked. Maya's smile was all teeth and no humor. "Then you'll get to find out how well your civilization functions without anyone willing to get their hands dirty on your behalf. It should be educational." The vote, when it came an hour later, was unanimous. As the Council session formally adjourned, and the various delegates began making their way back to their quarters, Councillor Vex'tar approached Maya's position. "That was either brilliant diplomacy or the most elaborate bluff in galactic history," the Andorian said. "Who says it was a bluff?" Maya replied, finally getting to her feet and stretching muscles that had been through entirely too much excitement for one day. "So what happens now?" Maya looked around the chamber, where maintenance crews were already working to repair the damage from the day's excitement, while several alien delegates lingered to continue conversations that had started during the cultural exchange. "Now we get back to work. The galaxy's not going to protect itself, and somebody's got to keep the trade routes clear while you politicians figure out the big picture stuff. And the formal wear requirements for future council sessions?" Maya looked down at her battle-scarred armor, then back at Vex'tar with a grin. "I think we've established a new dress code. Practical, functional, and ready for whatever the galaxy throws at us." As she headed for the docking bay where her courier ship was waiting, Maya could hear the sounds of genuine conversation behind her, aliens from different species and cultures talking to each other like actual people instead of formal representatives of abstract political entities. Maybe that was what civilization actually looked like. Not the absence of conflict, but people willing to stand together when conflict found them anyway. Her communicator chimed with an incoming message from Sergeant Rodriguez back on Helios 7. "How did the diplomatic mission go, Commander?" Maya smiled as she typed her response. "Better than expected. Turns out diplomacy works a lot better when everyone's on the same side." The galaxy, she reflected as her ship prepared for the jump back to human space, was a complicated place. But maybe, just maybe, it was getting a little less complicated all the time. Even if it did require the occasional practical demonstration of why civilization was worth protecting in the first place.